After years of nothing due to the Wii exclusivity of Samurai Warriors 3, Samurai Warriors finally got a mainline game in the West to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the series, this being Samurai Warriors 4, which was a play-it-safe sequel, yet also massive downgrade in many areas. Then, not even like a year later, they re-released the game with barely anything new and charged $60 for it. Time to finally review Samurai Warriors 4-2, a horrible game and port for the PC.
You ain't lying.
The storytelling saw a massive downgrade, and majority of characters are no longer a part of the Musuo mode. This means you will no longer get to play majority of characters, much like Dynasty Warriors 6. You can only play the majority in free mode, to which there is no point, as free mode is the same exact thing as Musuo mode, with all the pop-up objectives getting in the way and scripting the battle to be extremely linear. The storytelling is the same, and you can only play the one side of the story mission in free mode. Yes, this means free mode is stupid and pointless. Also, you will notice the storytelling is now mostly visual novel laziness with just text. Omega Force continues to put no effort into their titles. There's only 2 pre-rendered cutscenes of actual cinematics, the beginning of the Musuo mode story and the ending, all of which are lazy and anticlimactic, like an Empire's cutscene till Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires added meaningful cutscenes. You will also notice the story mode and the rest of the game is in Japanese, making it even harder to understand and keep up with what's happening on screen. Unless you speak Weebnese, you will never notice all the stuff happening, because you're so focused on the fighting, you didn't notice the commander about to die, and then have to start all over again after playing the battle for 10 to 15 minutes. They also removed all the iconic stories of old, no Nobunaga, Mitsuhide, Rimaru, or Hideyoshi stories, or even the edgelord ninja guy. No. Not even Tokugawa Ieyasu gets a story. They instead focus on random selection of about 2 to 3 characters. They, instead of giving you Mitsuhide's story, give you some Majima Goro knockoff piece of shit who loves dynamite that kills Nobunaga. Instead, and the whole shtick of the story is Oda keeps forgiving the Majima Wish.com edition, which drives him even more insane. How stupid. The characters had small design alterations, but look basically the same as they always have. There's 12 new characters and 1 with 4-2. They're all boring and nothing special. Plus, most of them are not even in Musuo mode and only free mode, so there's no reason to talk about them. Some characters were downgraded to near generics or had their personalities butchered. For example, Mitsuhide rarely ever talks and is only there to be there because he's supposed to be there, part of Nobunaga's entire clan. Nobunaga himself was downgraded into a generic clown character who just continuously laughs at every little thing. Yeah, this game sucks ass.
No shit.
The combat was made slightly more clunky. This is mostly because of the bad PC port. You have backwards controls and the controller buttons do not appear in the game. Instead, it's a random selection of in-game icons. You must memorize what each icon means. What does the sword icon mean? What does the character running mean? What does the circle icon mean? You name it. You also cannot control the camera like normal. This means you must use the triggers, or L2/R2 for the PlayStation controller users, to move the camera left and right. You cannot remap these, by the way. In fact, majority of controls are glued to the keyboard. So you will use the controller to play, but need the keyboard to skip cutscenes, press start, pause the game, switch characters, retreat, you name it. It's awful. And for some reason, they made the X button accept and the Y button cancel. Or for PlayStation controllers, it would be square accept and triangle cancel. You can switch characters now, which is a tacky gimmick that barely matters and feels tacked on so badly. Honestly, I forget that it's there half the time, since you never really need to switch between the officers unless you're on a harder difficulty. At that point, however, the game goes from being a Warriors game to a freaking babysitter simulator. What is this, Resident Evil 4 or 5? Bullshit. Outside of this, the game is basically the same old, just with no ninja shortcuts and stuff like that brought in by the second game. You'll never have anything else to do besides moving forward in a linear level design and complete a series of objectives. Fail, then it's game over. The padding and linearity ruins the Warriors experience. There's no reason for this stuff. Not to mention the non-stop pop-ups telling you the objective, because having the mini-map tell you where to go and what to do in the older games was somehow worse than pausing the game with pop-ups that ruin the flow of the game and in turn get in the way of your Musou attacks. Lame.
What the hell is that?
Survival mode was downgraded and is just a straightforward kill everything on every floor and you're entirely alone. There's nothing to it this time, and the darkness makes it hard to see. Especially in cutscenes, you'll notice the graphical issues with the darkness, like a faint circle appearing on the screen at all times, and the darker areas being scrambled and looking awful, so the edges look low resolution and blurry. Another downgrade is the free mode having no reason to exist. There's no extra modes like challenge mode, gauntlet mode, the board game from Samurai Warriors 2, you name it. You just have story, pointless free mode, and survival, which is so forgettable, I'm not even going to cover it. There's a character creator, but there's no reason for it, as the editor is extremely lackluster, basic, and you cannot create realistic looking people. This means if you want to make Charlie and Muda from Moist Critical and Some Ordinary Gamers, you can't. There's a lack of facial hair, and the face sculpting is minimal at best. Plus, the game loves to crash when you're making a custom officer. Great PC port, guys. No, really. 10 out of 10.
That's the only 10 this movie's getting.
The PC port in of itself is awful. The buttons are almost entirely on the keyboard. You can't use the mouse. There's no icons for controllers. The game loves to crash randomly. There's tons of frame drops, slowdowns, lag, and pop-in. Also, it's the PlayStation 3 version and not the PlayStation 4 version they brought over. They also didn't bundle in the DLC with the PC port and are still charging $50 for the game, let alone $120 for the DLC. Now this is in USD money. God only knows how bad it is for the poor bastards in Australia.
Do I look like a happy camper to you? Didn't think so.
At the end of the day, I do not recommend this piece of shit game. It's clearly just another half-assed entry of the Warriors games by Omega Force. They clearly made this because they needed something for the anniversary. And we all know most of the time, when it comes to anniversary game releases, they tend to be dog shit, like Sonic 06. So save your money, don't even bother getting this game for free via the 7 Seas, it's not worth the bandwidth. The Samurai Warrior games have always had it rough. This is nothing different. Samurai Warriors 4-2 left me wanting nothing more to do than shove a porcupine up my ass while singing Rebecca Black's Friday in a tutu just to find some joy in life and see if I still feel pain after this depressing experience.
Boy, I'm a little hard right now, I ain't gonna lie.
With only a few more Samurai Warriors games to cover, it's time to get back into them with Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada, a game I thought I was going to hate, especially because online, no one seemed to like this one. So I went in with a closed mind, but was immediately punched in the gut. After all the air left my lungs, I was stunned. Looking at the game, only 10 minutes in, and I loved it. This is one of the best modern Warriors games by far. In fact, it has elements that Dynasty Warriors 9 would borrow from and fail miserably at, on top of being, well, Dynasty Warriors 9. This game is an Extreme Legends style expansion, but it is its own thing in turn too. There's no importing data from Samurai Warriors 4 or 4-2. It's also all about the Sanada clan, with more historical accuracy, several new characters, and tons of new ideas that somehow worked, and I wish we would see them again in later Warriors titles. So let's get this intro over with and talk about Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada already, cause man, is there a lot of stuff to talk about. While I won't go too far into spoiler territory given its new content, characters, and plot, I will cover a small portion of the story nonetheless, which is what we will start out with. The game is all about the Sanada clan with a more historical accurate tale, so instead of playing as the Sanada brothers right away, they're not even born yet till after a few battles. Then over time, they grow up, while you guys play as their father for the first several major story missions. In turn, there's a lot more to the Sanada now, with several generic officers playing family members and important officers. However, these officers look like something made in the Empire's games. Honestly, it's quite jarring to see a quality dip in the character models. Plus, the visual novel storytelling returns, and I hate it. It's such a downgrade from the cinematics of past games. Just make cinematics, quit courting corners, Omega Farce. Fuck. As time goes on, characters die and grow up, eventually controlling the Sanada brothers as they rise up to take over for their father and be proud of the Sanada name. The rest of the story, I'll leave to you. The game introduces 6 new characters to the series: Chacha, the daughter of Oichi and Nagamasa; Hidetada Tokugawa, the son of Ieyasu; Katsuyori Takeda, the son of Shingen Takeda; Sasuke, a student ninja under Hanzo; Muramatsu, the sister of Yukimura and Nobuyuki, who's not even playable; then finally, Masayuki Sanada, the father of Muramatsu, Yukimura, and Nobuyuki. Also, basically everyone from Samurai Warriors 4-2 returns, but not everyone is playable. Only in select side battles will you be playing as most of the other characters, if even most at all. While during the main story ones, you can sometimes play as other key characters, such as Saikon and Konoichi, as well as Hanzo. As for the new characters, I honestly don't care for some of them, especially Chacha, who's just a stuck-up cunt bag that never changes during the story. Sasuke is just a whiny kid that makes Hanzo look bad. Hidetada is whatever. Katsuyori is literally a reskin of several characters. If you ever played as Zhao Yun, Sunse, or even Toshie, then you know what to expect. Masayuki was interesting at first, but devolved and became a bit of a hypocrite towards the end. Honestly, it's an okay cast of newcomers, but they're no Kojiro.
Yeah, I'm the best there is and the best there'll ever be.
Yes, you certainly are strong. You're no victim, no poor innocent. You're not someone I'm compelled to cut down for their own good. I've never met anyone like you. You're the only one who is capable of matching me. The only one worth cutting down. Come on, then. Let's go.
The combat is pretty good. In fact, I enjoyed it here more so than Samurai Warriors 4-2. It's just more fluid and flashy. I don't know if they did anything at all, but yeah, it's great. Given it's a PC port, they allowed for a lot more troops on screen than the console versions, so everything is pure chaos as you rack up 1,000 KOs in less than a minute. It does suck, however, there's not much way in difficulty. Even though I'm playing on normal, the Warriors games usually only make the AI more spongy if you increase the difficulty, so I never play on higher settings. Difficulty should not equal more health and damage for the AI, but instead smarter AI. Why are video games still not evolving past this ancient trope? Oh well. You still have all the Warriors stuff here. Build a Masuo gauge, rage, combos, mounts, gate captains, and counters against officers. It's fast-paced, flashy fun despite the lack of challenge at times outside of officers and certain unit types. Plus, the switching of officers does return, as you can play up to 2 officers in several battles, but not all of them. Some battles you're restricted on who you can play as and bring to battle alongside you. The dual Masuo attack also returns, so if you have both a full bar, it's time for a more powerful attack. You can freely explore your hometown. As you progress, the town grows with new opportunities and businesses, from shops to a dojo, or even a tea house to help build bonds with other characters. A general store, blacksmith, tea house, dojo, farm field, river to fish, Jiazu statue, or however you pronounce it, warehouse, and a stable. Eventually your home will become more lively with things to do and buy, as well as craft and grow. The shop allows you to buy materials for crafting, gifts, and quests. But it doesn't have everything, just a random assortment, most of which you can get from just exploring the various locations in game or by completing tasks for others as rewards. You can also craft medicine here to aid you in battle with healing or temporary stat boosts. The blacksmith is where you can buy new weapons and upgrade them. If you have the materials, you can add skills to your weapons. These will offer increased attack, attack range, attack speed, etc. The tea house is where one can invite any character from the game they know, then talk to them, give them gifts to increase their friendship level so that they can tag along during explorations. Also, by maxing out their friendship level, they in turn can give you gifts, which could be new materials. The dojo allows you to increase any officer's level with overall experience earned from playing the story, as well as gold. If any officer has reached a certain level, you can increase their attacks, Masuo gauge, rage, and more. But you need gold to increase stats, so be sure to hoard all you can by collecting it through objective completion, treasure boxes, and selling materials. The Jiazu statue, or however you pronounce the damn thing, is strange. As you leave an offering at it, then after a single battle, enough time will have passed, so you return to it to collect a reward, if you were lucky enough. The better quality of the offering, the better the reward. The thing will in turn into that one ball game, where the ball's in the cup, and you have to pick the right cup as it switches around, or you must pick the right bag in order to get a better reward. Fishing is my favorite activity in the game, outside of exploration and farming. If you have anything that can be used as bait, you can fish. Each bait equals 1 fish, if you can even catch one. It's not hard, but the higher quality the bait, the faster the gauge moves, and you need to time it just right to catch something. Also, if the bait is high quality, the fish has a good chance of being high quality too. It's simple fun and I just love it. Anyone you can control can do all these activities, including Yukimura when he's still a kid. Farm field allows you to plant and grow veggies, which are more crafting materials and gifts. If you find seeds, you can plant them here by doing a minigame where you have to pull a Yakuza on the field with a hoe. After a single battle, the plants will grow. The better the seed and planting by getting a shorter time, the better the harvest will be in turn. Warehouse is where you just rewatch cinematics and visual novel scenes, listen to the soundtrack, and read up on the lore of the world. As you learn more of the world, you get more stuff for the vault. Stable is where you buy new mounts. Early on, you only have one horse and it's a bad one. It'll get the job done, but it's not that effective as the later mounts. Just have the gold and it's shop till you drop. The faster ones are always best in any Warriors game for obvious reasons, especially when you go exploring. In this game, you'll want one that can zoom around and collect materials with ease. Speaking of exploration, it's time to cover this game's unique new feature. In Spirit of Sanada, you can now freely explore sectioned off areas of various environments. This is a good way to gather materials for whatever you may need, but also events can occur with enemy faction ambushes, bandits, rescuing your people, bears, and more. It's a simple new addition that is superior to the trash Dynasty Warriors 9 open world. I mean, it's proof you don't need an open world. Collecting materials and fighting bandits can work in a closed off sectioned environment. Plus, with it being sectioned off, the performance and load times are so smooth I barely notice the loading screens. Just play Spirit of Sanada instead of the trash DW9 if you want some exploration in your Warriors game. It's just a superior version, and a whole lot of fun. Plus, this game did come out first, in 2016. Holy crap, this is from 2016?
雪村様ってどうかしました？いや。
The music is phenomenal. Samurai Warriors 4 had a decent selection, but this game just adds so much more. In fact, I've been using it during this review, since I was able to find it. Thanks to KHinsider.com for being a great source of video game soundtracks. The AI is aggressive at times, but usually only if you let them be. Or if you're facing officers, otherwise the normal soldiers are pretty stupid and barely pose a risk. Unless it's the cavalry or spear unit, these guys can charge and knock you around dealing good damage. I just wish there was more modes. Where's the free mode? I want to play as everyone from the series up to this point. I want to play the other battles, but instead it's just a Sanada campaign with a few options. Sometimes there's side battles about other characters, and it's a breath of fresh air to play as someone else after several hours, but outside of those side battles, you cannot play as other characters unless the game lets you. I also wish you could hunt. You cannot run around and kill deer and stuff. So it's got fishing and exploration but not hunting. That does suck, but it's not a deal breaker. I'm just someone who likes to do those types of outdoor activities. And that's about it. I can't really think of anything else to include in the other section. So let's go ahead and end this review with the score then.
Bruh.
At the end of the day, Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada is a good game. While nothing great, as it's lacking in features and content, it's still a game worth checking out. Had it featured more modes, English dub, and gotten rid of the visual novel storytelling in favor of actual cutscenes and stuff to do, it could have been even better. But for what it is, Spirit of Sanada is a good game to go out on with the 4th entry to Samurai Warriors. It's clear at this point Omega Force was nailing down the formula for a good Samurai Warriors game since the 2nd title. Sadly though, the next entry would fall short of living up to those expectations with Samurai Warriors 5, another game I've already covered. Whatever lies in the future for this series, it's brighter however than Dynasty Warriors after Dynasty Warriors 8 and 9. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later. Man, to think I only have one more Samurai Warriors game to review after this. Anyways, Samurai Warriors 4 Empires is the last expansion to Samurai Warriors 4. At least till yet another rendition of the game came out called DX in the West via Steam this year. So now we have Samurai Warriors 4, 4-2, Spirit of Sanada, Empires, and DX. Since DX is just the base game of all the DLC, I'll skip the original base game in favor of it. But for now, let's talk about Empires and if it's actually worth playing, especially since you can only play it on PS3, PS4, and PS Vita. Yep, Omega Force has yet to still port this game to PC. Probably going to be yet another shadow drop in the coming years. We'll start out with Officer Edit mode, where we can make all kinds of characters with a limited asset library. Yeah, this game is lacking in comparison to Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, which came out before this one, so there's no excuse for the lack of outfits and facial hair, especially which made it hard to make several YouTubers and streamers. I did make Charlie, Asmund, Muda, Max, Scott, John, Angry Joe, and more though.
自慢といえば金魚たちかな。戦の疲れを癒してくれるぞ。
小鳥を飼っております。チチチッと鳴く姿が愛おしくて。
After making an officer, you can choose from several movesets. You got generic movesets, but plenty of unique. Pick whatever you want to use for this officer, and unlike DW80, you cannot use a secondary weapon. What a downgrade. So get used to using the same exact moveset over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, that won't get old.
I'm sensing a little sarcasm.
After that, you pick your stat orientation. This determines your default stats and gives you 2 unique directives, I think they're called, or something like that. Anyways, let's cover the combat.
Ten下への道筋は見えている。始めるぞ。
Samurai Warriors 4 had pretty fast-paced combat. In fact, Empires keeps that momentum, which isn't always the case, as Empires tended to be smaller and slower. For example, in Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5 Empires, there's less troops and officers in every battle. So you wouldn't get tons of KOs unless you worked harder and fought a larger army. But here, the amount of soldiers is kind of on par with the base game, but also not really. That's always a thing with Empires, is there's less officers and soldiers on every battlefield. It always irked me as a bad design decision. It's not like the games can't handle a ton of things on the screen. The combat is fast, but also smooth and fluid. Using the dash attack with triangle, slaughtering everything in front of me, never gets old as I feel like a badass. That's the appeal of the Warriors games. Power fantasy. With Empires, it's power fantasy with your own characters. So get out there and slaughter foes with Moist Critical, some ordinary gamers, Asmongold, Emeru, Brutal Moose, Scott the Waz, Jontron, Maximilian Dude, and more. Every moveset feels good to play with. This used to not be the case, as certain characters were a chore and a total bore, like Akuni, Oichi, any tank guys like Honda, Civic, and Keiji. I hated using these guys, but now everything is more fluid and worth using. Masuo is so much better here than in previous Samurai Warriors games, though because it's a PlayStation 3 game, there's not that many troops on screen. Plus, if you, other officers, and your troops are around, they eat up the screen space, not allowing enemies to appear. This makes taking over bases together less desirable, as it means less enemies to fight, and base taking takes longer in turn. But Masuo attacks are fun, though I do wish they were faster. I don't care for the camera zoom in with the officers talking before their final attack. It just drags things on, and I don't use Masuo that often because of it. While the bow is still missing, thank God, horses are still around, and we can even call them, thank God. But movement in combat is still not that enjoyable. But in comparison to Samurai Warriors 3, it's so much better. You're not as enjoyable as Dynasty Warriors 8. This game came out after DW8E and doesn't yet feature the fluidity of better horse combat, which sucks.
先の戦、お前と競い合えてよかったぜ。で、思ったんだ。お前には負けらんないってな。
拙者も同様に思っておった。次はどうなるかわからぬが、負け抜きで行くぞ。
If you build relationships with officers, let alone set your custom officer to have a parent during officer edit, you can switch to that friend/family member during combat. Even if you're not friends with everyone, if one of your officers is friends with several others during battle, you can switch to them as well. This means as long as your army consists of those with bonds, you can freely switch during battles. This helps keep the game from getting boring during long plays. I mean, this playthrough for this review did take roughly 6 hours, basically in the end. Plus, I did start out with a ton of territories already, and officers, so imagine just how long it will take you during different playthroughs. It adds up, and being able to swap to other characters during battles really helps keep things from getting stale. Just using different movesets with everyone, seeing their Masuo attacks and hearing a different voice is a nice addition that I wish Dynasty Warriors incorporated. Oh well, let's jump into Empire mode and explain its many features. Oh, did you think we were even close to being done? Nah, my reviews are getting larger and larger. Sorry, not sorry.
この手で乱世を制し、天下を統一してみせよう。
There's only 2 game modes in SW4E. These are literally the same thing. They just took Empire mode and broke it off into 2 to make it look like there's more value than there really is.
Great deal.
Conquest mode is just a scenario separated. Genesis mode is the gathering of heroes from Dynasty Warriors Empire's games. So we'll just cover Genesis mode, given it's just the same thing, except we have more control over things like setting difficulty, data import, officer deaths, custom officers appearing, and if you want to be more historically accurate. Yeah, this option got Kotaku triggered back in the day. Can you guess why?
Based.
After that, we can set who owns what territory and whether or not they're a part of the same clan, giving more power to certain ones. After this, we begin the game as whoever we want to play as. Sadly though, unlike previous Empire games for Dynasty Warriors, you cannot be anything but a ruler. So they removed vagabonds and being an officer for an AI ruler. So yeah, get used to hearing me bitch about all the downgrades this game has to offer. Once you begin, you need to select a strategist, then pick up to 2 officers for the other sections of your clan's affairs, like personnel, military, and development. with more unlocking as you upgrade your castle and pick certain options to unlock new rooms and bonuses. More on that later. Every time you start or when you conquer a territory, your strategist will ask you to pick a territory to target. This does nothing but give you a determined territory to attack. Your army will not go after it, unlike in DW80 or DW70. So no raids or anything. Yeah, they removed raids in this game. Yet another feature from older games missing. Shocker.
"年貢を測る5升マスを作っていた。普通より少し小さいのは民に回す米を増やすためだ。
熱い殿様だ。いえ、素晴らしいお考えだと思います。
While Dynasty Warriors has policies, Samurai Warriors has directives. And they're what you'd expect if you ever played any Empire games before. You can do things like increase relations with officers, get formations, increase commerce and rice yield, form alliances, and more. Though sadly, one thing I always hated about Empire's games is there's only ever one ending. You must kill and conquer all territories and clans/kingdoms.
「誠にありがたい。そなたらと戦わずに済むだけでだいぶ楽になる。他の国のやつらビビってんぜきっと。だって俺らが組んじまうんだもんな。
では同盟の証としてそれぞれに我が家に伝わる武装品を献上しよう。
So forming alliances and trade always felt pointless and stupid to me. There should have been more options like a trade ending, an alliance ending, where you can have a more peaceful way to win the games. Just a suggestion, but whatever.
「退屈で仕方ないわ。何か面白いことやってちょうだい。」
共感できるな。採用だ。目安箱を設置した甲斐があった。
You can customize your castle by choosing the banner, which comes with stat bonuses like rice yield, troop strength, commerce, strategy, and more. So even if you like a certain banner, you will be punished if you choose one you like for cosmetic reasons only, as you will get a bonus or none at all depending on which one you chose. I hate this idea. A cosmetic should never act this way. Also, you can change the wallpaper of your castle, which thankfully doesn't do anything other than look different. Thank God.
築き上げましたね。大勢力。ここまでは俺の読み通り。ではここからは？
ここまで来れば覆されることもあるまい。着実に目標達成を目指す。
After you gain enough fame and have the gold, you can upgrade your castle, which gives you several options in a branching tree. Depending on which you select will limit your future upgrades, so pick wisely as you cannot change things once chosen.
組に分かれて区画の不審を担当してよ。一番遅かった組は切っちゃってもいい？
いにしえ木牛竜馬を作った諸葛孔明の潜みに倣って今孔明は作業用の木人を大量に作っちゃおうかな。
These will range from access to the shop to upgrade weapons, buy horses, and buy/sell supplies, to unlocking a tea room for bonding officers and more. I chose poorly and got the shop and tea room instead of the better options like a dojo.
"城が広くなった分、人に感激が生まれた気がする。みんなその辺意識低くない？
でも大きくなった分隠れて昼寝しやすくなったよ。これってとってもいいことじゃない？"
You can build relationships over time. Sadly though, it's too difficult in this game to build relationships in comparison to other Empires games.
Explain yourself.
To build relationships, you need to continuously accept their proposals for directives on top of fight several battles together, several dozen battles, mind you. Then finally, use up a directive turn on the fraternize action. It adds up and becomes tiresome. I just wanted to get some friends, get married, have a kid, a sworn ally, a rival, a nemesis, and a protege.
Is that all?
Yet, I never got any of that. Mostly my fellow officers did instead. I only got one friend, who was my strategist Hanbai.
お前のような家臣がいてこそ私の希望も生きる。これからもよろしく頼む。
そんなに褒められちゃまだまだ昼寝暮らしは遠そうですね。ま、やってみますか。
Instead, my other officers were bonding left and right.
お前か。もっと語り合いたいと思っていたんだ。
自分ごときに注目してくれていたとはありがたきことよ。
They were even making rivals and nemesises. Nemesi? Whatever. They were making rivalries and sworn enemies.
やはり見事よ。お主のことを好敵手と呼ばせてもらいたい。
ああ、これからもこの関係の熱さ壊したくないよな。俺も負けないよう精進する。お前も頼むな。
Even after over 5 hours of a single playthrough, I never got a spouse. Even though I did interact and battle alongside several female officers, I was hoping to either get No, Akuni, Ina, or a custom female officer, but never did. Also, there's no same-sex marriage in this game, so no femboy harem.
Why? Why?
Every battle costs a lot of gold and supplies, depending on how many officers you bring with you and if there's any reinforcements set up. Your supplies are used for time. If you bring a lot with you, you'll get more time to win the battle. But if you don't bring a lot, this will make battles a bum rush for the main camp situation. Otherwise, you're in for a treat of losing any battle once the timer reaches 0. Even if you're winning, it doesn't matter. The timer says you lose.
You get nothing. You lose.
If you bring more troops than the enemy, before every battle there's a gauge that fills up to showcase soldier count. If yours is higher than the enemy's, you get a bonus in weakening the enemy bases. This makes the battles easier for you. But if the enemy has more troops, the effect backfires onto your bases.
Oh, my favorite!
You also have formations, a unique system for Samurai Warriors Empires games. These will determine a stat bonus for your army, like making everyone move faster, have higher attack, defense, and regeneration of their health over time. They only last for a set amount of time, and if the enemy has a formation that gives them the advantage, you lose your bonus. There's also battlefield tactics to give yourself more advantages. Much like in Dynasty Warriors Empires games, this gives you things like cavalry units, sumos, sages, ninjas, archer volleys, cannon volleys, and more. So even if the enemy has the advantage in troop count, you can turn the tides of war with ninja ambushes attacking their bases all over the battlefield, creating distress. Unlike Dynasty Warriors Empires games, you can set where each officer is placed before battle. Every square on the map can host a single officer, so place people where you want them to begin. This doesn't really affect things, but is a nice thing to have, much like issuing individual commands. So if a base is in danger, especially your main camp, you could tell your people to go to it. So if Charlie, for example, is close by, issue a command for him to protect the main camp from falling, otherwise you lose the battle. You can also tell officers to attack or defend bases, and even follow certain officers, including yourself. Sadly, unlike other Empires games, you cannot select much in the way of music, as it's mostly only Samurai Warriors 4 and Empires tracks. There's no Spirit of Sanada, 4-2, Samurai Warriors 1, 2, or 3 music available. So the selection is very limited with repeated tracks playing in most battles. This does get old after a while, and there's zero excuses for not having more options.
Preach it, honey.
Invasion battles are all about taking over the enemy main camp or taking out their commander if their ruler appears. Meanwhile, defensive battles has you doing the same or waiting out the timer, all while protecting your main camp in all types of battles. There's no more raids or special missions. You can't slay troublesome wolves, protect a merchant from bandits, or assassinate an officer during a stealth mission at night. Those types of things were only in DW70 and DW80.
Wow, so sad.
Really sad.
After every battle, everyone participating gains experience. That's all there is to it in this game. You don't get items or anything, as Samurai Warriors 4 Empires decided to remove items to increase stats or to give you elemental attacks. After battles, you can hire those you've captured, though they will not always accept, and you can choose to let officers go or execute them. I'm not a monster, so those I didn't want or wouldn't accept were set free. This is a good way to get more officers, but there's a hard limit of 100 in this game, so be careful as you hire more and more. It will become costly and eventually eat up space.
Wow, ここまで国広げちゃうなんておみそれしました。
ここで満足してはそれまでだ。さらなる高みを目指していくぞ。
Your goal is to conquer every territory of the land. You cannot form alliances and lead to a peaceful ending. No, you must kill all factions off and wipe them out of the history books. This does add up, as you need to position your officers next to a territory to invade them. Only officers connected to that territory can participate in battle. This is an issue I have with several Empires games, having to micromanage where every single officer is just to use certain ones in battle. This shouldn't be a thing, and thankfully some Empire games doesn't feature this. But this game does, and I absolutely hate it. So if you want to battle with certain officers, building their bonds and using one with more troops and higher stats, then get ready to micromanage each individual territory for each individual invasion. Also, if there's not many or any officers in a territory that gets attacked, you're in for hell. This is just a stupid and inexcusable system featured in older Empires games like DW4E, DW5E, and sadly DW9E.
最後の命だ。油断するな。そして勝て。
これで戦も最後か。感慨深いものよ。
While I have a lot of negative things to say about Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, and I did in my review of it back in February, it did come with the best edit mode, so many options for outfit pieces and facial hairs, plus it introduced troop edit, where we can make our own soldiers to use, horse edit to give our kingdom their own mounts, which even the cavalry units would use, banner edit to give ourselves a unique flag, then finally a scenario edit to make our own scenarios instead of playing the same thing over and over again. We could make so much, and it was never brought back to date in any newer Empires games.
Wow, so many options.
This game doesn't even let you make your own clans / kingdoms. We cannot make anything besides a few dozen officers with a tiny amount of outfits and accessories. This will lead to everyone eventually looking the same at some point. Even with DLC, we don't have any real options.
It's awful.
Usually every Empires game we had every single game soundtrack available to use in battle and during other moments in game. Sadly, we don't have that option in Samurai Warriors 4 Empires. All the music is just from SW4 and nothing else. This means you will not have access to SW1, 2, or 3 and their expansions. This sucks because this limits how many tracks you will have to listen to in game, especially during battles, as now you'll hear the same song over and over and over again. This made battles feel more repetitive, yet the music itself is really good, just lacking in quantity department. I never really had any performance issues outside of some very large battles. Then I saw some slowdown like the classic PlayStation 2 games. Otherwise, I never had long load times, stuttering, and crashes, but graphically the game was clearly downgraded to work on this ancient console. And yes, the PlayStation 3 is ancient, folks. The thing is 18 years old now. So there's a lot of pop-in, pixelation, and flickering of various graphics. You can see this in cutscenes, especially with water and whatnot. The edges of trees and bamboo are not exactly smooth.
泣かぬなら仕方がないなホトトギス。潔く諦めよう。
泣かぬならじっと見つめるホトトギス。期待込めてじっと見つめてやるんだ。
It does suck there's no English dub, though I hated Samurai Warriors 3's dub. At least giving us an option for English and Japanese would have been a nice addition. No English will scare off potential players because many don't want to read subtitles. There are those who just want to hear their language through these characters so they can pay attention to the action on screen and not just look at text all day.
Can I get an amen?
While Dynasty Warriors Empires was lacking in cutscenes and most of them just sucked, this game decided to focus on quantity over quality, unlike Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires. The cutscenes, if you can even call them that, are just lazy visual novel moments that mostly have text to describe everything and robotic stiff animations for the characters. They barely move and the scenes feel really soulless. I like the idea of including so many scenes, but it's quantity over quality. I'll give you a short comparison of Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires versus Samurai Warriors 4 Empires cutscenes, just so you can understand the quality difference.
Yo, 戻ってきたな。こっちだ。大した活躍だったな。おかげで俺も楽できたぜ。あんたの戦は見ていて面白いしな。次も期待してるぜ。
俺はこの状況を打開できるのか。
自分もできる限りの力を尽くそう。だから共に前を向こう。
いやー、待った待った。退屈で死にそうだったぜ。
だが近くこの大陸の勢力図は大きく動くことになろう。
乱世平定の秘策、すでに我が胸中にあり、今こそ飛躍の時だ。
うわー、ここまで国広げちゃうなんておみそれしました。
ここで満足してはそれまでだ。さらなる高みを目指していくぞ。
茶は気持ちを入れて立てるのか。よし、入った。ささ、どうぞ。
戦いの日々に安らぎをくれたことを感謝する。いい手前だった。
There's not much else to talk about. At least the game does feature 2-player local play, so before battle, a second player can press start and join in. We've covered everything else like music, lack of dub, and more. Well, this video is already long enough. Let's just get this video over with, shall we?
It's been 84 years.
At the end of the day, Samurai Warriors 4 Empires is just an average game. It does have a lot of problems, but it's playable and offers some decent fun. I just wish a few issues would have been addressed in a patch, or for things to be less of a hassle. I did have fun, most of the time.
Shots! We're all shocked.
I did prefer this game to the likes of Dynasty Warriors 6 Empires and 4 Empires, but when compared to Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8 Empires, this game falls short in terms of meaningful moments, music options, edit modes, and more.
Oh, really?
Samurai Warriors 4 Empires is a game well worth playing, just be ready for a few hiccups in performance and lacking in ways to play. Eventually I'll tackle Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires and Samurai Warriors 4 DX. Till then, anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later.
Hinomoto がついに我らの手で一つに。
俺の熱い舞見ていてください。
日の本一の前に日の本一の禅の数々、夢の中にいるようだ。
まったくいい顔してる。全てを成し遂げた英雄の顔だ。本当についてきてよかった。
太平の世導いたり。
It's finally time to review the last Samurai Warriors game, that being Samurai Warriors 4 DX, a PlayStation 4 game ported to PC back in May. It's also one of their best ports to date. This game is a next-gen version of Samurai Warriors 4, released back in 2014 to celebrate the series' 10th anniversary. It also has all the DLC, hence why it's called DX. So given this game has been around for a long time, it must have not aged well, right? Surprisingly, it's actually quite good. Though, there is some faults that I will be sure to cover. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about how it's been almost 1 year since I first started this journey. I never thought I would make it this far. I never saw myself covering every major Samurai Warriors game, but here we are, with the very last game, and it feels so good to be done with it all. So yeah, let's jump into this review already, as I have a lot to talk about. Honestly, don't like making my reviews so long, as they completely flop on my channel. In this game, you have 12 new characters to play with. I won't be covering them all because they mostly all suck. I have zero interest in most of them. All I will say is I hate Hisari Matsunaga. This guy is literally just, we have Majima Goro at home.
ただで助かるのが嫌ならば、そのつまらぬ茶釜一個代償にもらってやる。
断る。この茶釜も運命も我が輩のものだ。
背ききれぬか、無価値。
Then there's the female foot ninja warrior girl. Yeah, it's hard to describe this chick. Basically, she uses her feet to fight. Now calm down, you horn dogs. She's basically an anime as fuck chick in skippy samurai armor. She also has booby physics. 'Cause science. She clashes with one of my favorite girls from Samurai Warriors 3 during one of the story scenarios.
こりゃかみさんの実家もぼちぼち危ねえかな。
父上、今川家のいい直虎殿が出迎えに参られたようです。いい直虎、いい男っぽい名前。いい直虎です。女かい。すみません、なんかすみません。
Kai doesn't like her, and I'm in agreement. She's always so scared and apologizing. She's not that enjoyable, but I can see the Rule 34 potential. I can see the reason to marry her in the Empire's game. That is, if you can even figure out how to actually build relationships in that game. I can't for some reason.
バカ。我が輩は決めた。我が輩は我が輩の運命を奪い返す。
The last character I feel like is just okay is Yukimura's brother, Nobuyuki, who's more calm and collective. He's more of the brains, while Yukimura is always the hot-headed warrior. While at first these brothers work together, eventually it'll lead to their brotherly bonds being tested towards the end of the story.
だが私には親方様のように弟の死を乗り越え進むことはできない。頼む、知らないでくれ、雪村。花が散り残された幹はただただ寂しい。兄上。
One of the things that makes it harder to go back to the older Warriors games is the very slow and clunky combat of old. The lock-on combat that felt like a slightly less tankish Resident Evil 1 knife. Plus, movement speed that was that of a boomer congressman. So to go from Dynasty Warriors 4 Empires to Samurai Warriors 3 and finally Samurai Warriors 4 Empires and DX, I find myself actually having fun. Then again, I blame the bad combat of SW3 on the Nintendo Wii. It should have been a PlayStation 3 exclusive at worst, not a Wii exclusive. But Tecmo Koei has a track record of bad decisions. Looking at you, Dynasty Warriors 9. Combat has never been this good in a Samurai Warriors game. It's very fast-paced, very smooth, and tons of fun to play with, especially once you level up and unlock new combos. I actually liked playing as every character. No one felt god-awful to play as. Minus some characters with slow movement speeds, of course, but that can be remedied with your dash attack. Of course, you have your Masuo attack, but unlike Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, you only have one option. Meanwhile, in Dynasty Warriors, you had a ground Masuo and air Masuo attack. They're fine as is, but I hate how time consuming the attacks are. I mean, why do we have 2 separate attacks? You got your first attack, then the camera changes, your character speaks, then they go in for the final blow. I hated this. I just want to attack and keep going. Quit breaking the flow of the combat, damn it. If your spirit gauge is full, you can unleash it, then use your Masuo attack for an ultimate Masuo. This changes your animation and has a different area of effect with increased damage output. Then again, some of these appear to be Samurai Warriors 3 Masuo attacks reused, like for Hanbai. If you and your other playable officer you selected have maxed out Masuo gauges, you can unleash a dual Masuo attack. Nothing is different about them, you just get a different camera effect and maybe some increased damage, but that's about it. Of course, the horse combat still sucks, but at least the horse can move a bit faster than in Samurai Warriors 3. That was just a slog, but here, you can get hold of many different horses and some are given at the start. These ones are best in different stats, but the only use I see for horses in these games is to get around the battlefield quicker. As such, I don't care if they do more damage with their charge attack or not, I just want to get around as fast as possible to ensure all objectives are completed and I can beat each battle within a short amount of time. Horses are not as fluid as Dynasty Warriors 8, but they're more doable than in any other incarnation of Warriors games at that point. A feature that helps make battles a little bit less repetitive, and I mean only by a little bit, is officer switching. When you start a battle, you can select who you will play as and the other officer to swap to. Depending on who you select will trigger certain battle events and maybe even exclusive cutscenes. But those are just lazy visual novel stuff with more stiff animations than Starfield. Something only Empire's games has had for several installments now was introduced in Samurai Warriors 4, since you can switch between 2 officers now. So you can give the AI controlled one orders, so they can go and defeat certain officers, complete objectives, defend the commander, or hold up in a certain spot, let alone follow you around. This is a great addition to keep things from getting too stale, on top of switching between the 2 selected officers. There's also a unique attack to Samurai Warriors. It's an opening attack where if you see the triangle button or Y button if you're on Xbox or PC, allows you to go in for a fatal blow or deal massive damage to officers. Thank God there's still no bow in the game. I hated it in previous games, and even in Dynasty Warriors. The only reason to use it was to get officers off their horses, attack archers on walls or towers, or to cheap shot the enemy officers with ranged attacks, to not get so easily killed yourself like when dealing with Lu Bu.
Katsuyori様はご無事だろうか。
はい、きっと。織田信長。
なぜ？
うぬらは何を望む？変わり続ける世に何を残す？
Years ago, I was Chinese.
Given this game was originally made to celebrate Samurai Warriors' 10th anniversary, you'd think they'd go all out, right? Well, unlike Dynasty Warriors and its anniversary, they did go all out, at least in theory. Instead of giving us individual story modes, we now only have faction stories, of a grand total of 13 scenarios to play through. Only being able to select from a small selection of officers per battle. Get used to play as officers you don't like, or full on hate, cause that's the style of this game is going for.
Now this really pisses me off to no end.
I only completed 3 of the 13 scenarios, cause I got bored rather quickly. I don't like this game style of storytelling. You wanna know why?
Why?
Just like my complaints with Empires, the base game has a ton of lazy visual novel storytelling cut scenes. They're boring, stiff, lifeless, soulless, and just plain forgettable. In fact, if I didn't record most of these, I wouldn't be able to tell you of a single scene from the game that was memorable. Unlike Samurai Warriors 1, 2, and 3, where they used pre-rendered and in-game storytelling cutscenes with actual movement and camera angles, you don't get those in this game, unless it's for a brief moment. Like they were just trying to not use up their entire budget on these few brief pre-rendered cutscenes that really stand out in comparison to the lazy visual novel shit.
No man can have everything he wants.
Sadly, all battles are linear. You'll play them the same every single time you play the game, even in free battle. What's the point of free battle if it's not a free battle?
Makes sense.
Going through the same exact linear corridor of level designed battlefields, fighting the same exact officers, doing the same exact objectives. There's no player freedom, unlike in older Warriors games. This was all gutted in Dynasty Warriors 5 onwards.
Preach it, honey.
One of the worst things about this game is the non-stop pop-up objectives. While I'm sure you could turn it off in the settings, we should not have to toggle off a bad mechanic to a game. It should just be good right out of the box. Why do I have to turn it off to make it less annoying? Just don't add it in the first place. So yeah, because of the style of game, you will never really get to use your favorite officers in Masuo mode. In fact, several don't even appear as playable officers, or even just as an in-game NPC. Pure laziness and restrictions, I cannot stand.
さて、この戦、最も功ありし者は誰か。秀吉。
I know you told your friend you're not okay.
Free mode is back and lets you play any battles you've unlocked with any unlocked characters. This includes your created characters, unless they're used in Chronicles mode, of course. Otherwise, it's just Masuo mode with freedom of character selection. There's no appeal whatsoever since you cannot choose the other side in these battles. You can only play as the predetermined faction.
You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. There it is.
At least, unlike Dynasty Warriors for the PSP, you do keep your progression, so this is a way to grind other characters in certain stages, yet you can easily gain levels in their respective Masuo modes anyways, especially with unique items I use during my playthroughs, which makes free mode all the more pointless. There's only 3 modes to play in this game, one of which is good, the other is pointless, but at least it's there for those that want it. And finally, the horribly boring snooze fest that is Chronicle mode. Yep, there is a mode where you play as your own created character of choice and then just play tiny battles with other officers. That's it. That's the entire mode. It's stupid and pointless, except it's also the only way to get any of the biographies for characters, so if you want to see the history of each character in a real life counterpart, you can't. You have to play through Chronicle mode with those officers and befriend them over the course of several battles, and I mean several battles, just to get a tiny paragraph about each officer put into the BIOS section of the dojo in the main menu, which is the other section where you can make your own characters, change settings, and view cutscenes again.
It's awful.
I honestly have nothing positive to say about Chronicle mode. You could tell it was just tacked on here for an illusion of added value so they can sell this game to you. It's a boring experience that I played less than 15 minutes of just because it was that god awful. And when you make something someone refuses to play through the entire thing for, you know you failed as a developer and should just give up.
Based.
So yeah, let's cover the very last part of this game. Officer Edit allows you to make some custom characters, but not really, as the assets available are lackluster and not that good. So good luck making anyone from your favorite TV show, movie, video game, anime, real life, etc. It's a mediocre, lackluster character creator at best, and feels like something from a PlayStation 2 game instead of a PlayStation 4 game ported to PC. There are zero excuses here. Hell, it's even worse in the Empire's game, as some of these assets are not even available. But then again, it might be because that was the PS3 version. Oh well, who cares? I tried my best to make myself Charlie, Muda, Zack, and a female, cause we don't want a sausage party, mainly because that was one of the worst movies I tried to watch and stopped only 15 minutes into the film.
Yeah, this is good.
What the fuck? Oh my god. What the heck? Who the fuck was this for?
They forgot. Maybe it's undecided because the developers haven't figured it out. What the fuck? Absolutely. Yep.
After you make whatever you were trying to make but fail to do so cause this editor fucking sucks, you then can pick from one of 5 generic weapons to use. Yep, you cannot use any unique officer weapons in this game. At least not yet. Even after completing 3 scenarios in Masuo mode, I still didn't unlock any weapons or assets for created characters. So that tells me all I need to know. There's no way to do so after all. Unless that means I have to befriend them in Chronicles mode, then fuck that shit.
Garbage!
The last part of character creation is selecting your growth type. This will determine your starting point for each stat and how they will grow over time. So pick wisely, as you will regret not making your character move fast and deal damage at the same time. Trust me.
守りを固めて反撃の機を伺え。
父上、天守の門は私が守り抜きますぞ。
I'm moving a little slower than usual today.
So let's dive into the other section now and cover things like the PC port, starting out with which console version this game is based on.
Oh, goody goody!
While Samurai Warriors 4-2 was a PS3 game ported to PC many years ago, this one is based on the PlayStation 4 version of Samurai Warriors 4. This comes with all the DLC, and while it's okay looking today, back then it was a nicer looking game. It's sad how quickly video games aged like cottage cheese in the hot Arizona desert sun, since we went full 3D in the 90s. Yet overall, it's an okay looking game, with not many problems with the port.
It's a miracle! A Thanksgiving miracle!
Which is weird given Tecmo Koei's horrible track record with PC ports. While some are okay and most are terrible, like bad button layouts, last gen console ports, or technical hiccups galore.
What do, Grimy?
But thankfully, so far, this game has no real issues during my playthrough of several story modes and exploring everything else. So yes, one of the worst things about PC ports for Dynasty Warriors' many spin-offs was the button layout. That was not repeated for once. We can actually switch in the settings menu if we want to confirm with the B button or circle button instead of the A button or X button. By default, it is the A button, thank God.
Hallelujah!
This brings me to the last thing about the PC port, that being a very important part of any game.
Tell us, tell us, tell us, tell us!
Okay, Jesus. Not you.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.
So yeah, the PC port plays just fine. Even though I don't have a high-end PC, I never once had any slowdown, stuttering, long load times, or crash to desktop like you get when you play anything by Bethesda.
All of this just works. I'm not kidding.
So even if you don't have a gaming PC, you can easily run this game. There's a good amount of graphical options too to make it more playable on most computers, so thankfully this PC port is pretty solid. Wait, who are you and what did you do to Tech McCoy? Of course, we have to talk about the music.
Ah boy, here we go.
If you like rock, metal, techno, let alone traditional music, why not combine them for a very unique soundtrack to make you feel various emotions depending on the scenario on screen. Honestly, I feel like Samurai Warriors 2 and 4 have the best music in the series and can easily compete with the likes of Dynasty Warriors 4 and 7 respectively. One of the major cons to this game is the lack of an English dub. So yeah, hope you can read subtitles while slaughtering hordes of enemies, let alone are a weeb and know Japanese, let alone are Japanese.
Yeah, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, look at these. Hey, what do you say we get some of them burritos?
At the end of the day, Samurai Warriors 4 DX is a decent game. While lacking in some areas, I still had fun. Had it have a decent English dub, actual choice of which faction to side with in free mode, had they made Chronicle mode something worth playing and not a snore fest, and of course, had there been more focus on characters instead of factions, I'd probably have given it a higher rating. But for what it is, Samurai Warriors 4 DX is a game worth playing. However, it's not the best entry, as I still feel Samurai Warriors 2 was the best out of all the base games for Samurai Warriors. Out of all versions of SW4 to play, this is the best choice. Samurai Warriors 4 itself was lackluster from what I have seen, and 4.2 was just complete garbage. However, I still prefer Empires over every other expansion and alternative version of the base game. I just prefer to have more control, more strategy, and more personalization. Well, that does it, folks. I've officially reviewed every single major Samurai Warriors game and their expansions, after almost 1 year starting in November 2023. I've been at it just trying to get to each one as I could. It was one hell of a journey, but one I have no regrets from. Unlike every fishing game for the PlayStation 1 where most of the games were garbage,
You ain't lying.
here, that wasn't the case. Samurai Warriors has more good than bad games, which isn't something every franchise can say. Look at Resident Evil, Call of Duty, Dead Rising, Dynasty Warriors, South Park, Postal, and more. They all have more bad games than good. So let that help set in stone. Samurai Warriors has better developers that actually try and know what they're doing.
Oh, really?
Soon, a compilation for Samurai Warriors 4 will appear on my channel, and in the future, the complete compilation of every Samurai Warriors game. Till then, anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later.
鬼になんざなれるかよ。
う